Hello and welcome everyone. It's time for Encore's music show coming up. Born in Ghana, based in Brooklyn, MC and visual artist Blitz the Ambassador, aka Samuel Bazawule, is on a mission to reconnect the scattered sounds of African diaspora. Broken into 3 acts and accompanied by a short film, Blitz's 4th studio album, Diasporadical, unearths the common culture, spirituality and struggle at the root of pan-Africanism. Blitz, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here. Can you fill in the blank? You're the ambassador of what exactly?
I'm the ambassador of all things African and all things awesome.
I love that. I can attest to that. You're absolutely awesome in every way. Now, over a decade ago, you moved to New York, but you left your heart in another big city, your hometown of Accra, that's Ghana's capital. Stealing a line from your song, can you tell us, what's it like to be an African in New York?
Being an African in New York is clearly one of those things where you're straddling the fence between, you know, what you've left behind, what you are now, the things you embrace. I think that for me, it's been important that as an artist, I can find a common ground and gel these things that I am. So it's been quite an exciting experience.
Coming back to your album, Diasporadical, is that your way of connecting with your heritage?
No, absolutely. I mean, my entire life as an artist has been that connection. You know, as an immigrant, you always have these questions that you're asking yourself. You know, how much of myself do I keep? How much of myself do I leave behind? It's a constant wrestle. So Diasporadical was for me to say that, in fact, you can be all these things. You can be a New Yorker. You can be someone who's still from Accra authentically, if it's still in your hearts, that is. So that album is a clear reflection of that mindset.
Well, let's hear a track off the album. This is Running.
Whatever it takes to make it hardcore. You run it, but you can't hide. You run it, but you can't hide. You run it, but you can't hide.
Blitz, you're a man of many talents. So you directed that clip, and it's the final installment of Diasporadical Trilogia, which is a 3-part short film shot between Accra, Salvador, and Brooklyn to accompany the album. Yep. You've said that magical realism plays a big part in your storytelling. How so?
Well, I mean, as an African, you know, we have magic as part of our everyday life. You know, at least for me, I've never really known any African that doesn't believe strongly in superstition, you know, whether we admit it or not. So for me, trying to bring that into art is critical. I mean, of course, you know, the birthplace in terms of literary magical realism is Colombia with the Marquezes of the world and Allende's of the world. But for me, embracing that term and embracing the idea of magic in filmmaking is something that I think can also enable me to make authentically African work, where we deal with not just what's visual and what's in front of us, but what's also kind of in the third realm. And I think that, you know, African filmmaking can benefit from that.
Well, staying with that sense of magic, this record captures the essence of African spirituality through song. What kind of juju sparks are flying on this album, Blitz?
Tons of it. I mean, you know, I spent some time in Brazil as well, in Accra and in Brooklyn, and, you know, kind of liaison in between, you know, Akan traditional spirituality, candomblé spirituality, and especially for the short film, it was very trying to capture that connection as well, to show that African people, irrespective of how dispersed we are, music is something that consistently runs through us, and spirituality is something that consistently runs through us. So this album was meant to kind of bridge that gap and give the diaspora a space in which we could communicate.
Well, you certainly do connect the dots on the album and the film. We're going to take a look at an excerpt from the film now.
I know say the story I can't tell you. It go hard make you believe. See myself sometime, I no sure say it be dream where I dream or it happen the way I dey tell. See, I meet some woman where he say he live 3 different lives for 3 different continents, all for the same time. So I ask and say, how somebody feel do so?
Could you take us through some of the cultural references that helped shape your outlook on life and music?
Well, a lot of it is music. You know, I grew up fortunately listening to some of the greats from Mariam Saab to Manu Dibanjo to Fela Kuti. This was my beginning, you know, the foray. Then, of course, you know, cinema also, you know, from the Usman Sembens, you know, to the Kwawan Sans, to, you know, King Ampaus. These are amazing African filmmakers that also shaped, you know, who I am as well. But as far as, you know, when I traveled, it's when you realize that when you're no longer in that space, that's when you actually long for it more. And so my immigration also became a major cultural turning point for me, where I started to seek more and dig a lot more into where I came from. And I think that has greatly benefited my art.
Well, Diasporadical certainly shines a new light on all of those issues that you've just spoken about. And it's also the kind of record that you could just put on and dance to as well, right?
That's critical. You got to have both.
Exactly. Well, Diasporadical is out now. And that brings us to our new album releases of the week. Pop 60s inspired siren Lana Del Rey drops the upbeat Lust for Life. Since breaking out with 2012's Born to Die, the American singer, known for her tortured ballads, has shifted from sepia tones to something a little brighter on this record. Cameos come courtesy of The Weeknd, ASAP Rocky, Playboy Cardi, Stevie Nicks and Sean Ono Lennon. Let's listen to Lust for Life featuring The Weeknd.
And I lust for life, lust for life, lust for life, lust for life, keeps us alive, keeps us alive, keeps us alive, keeps us alive. And I lust for life, lust for life, and I lust for life, lust for life, keeps us alive, keeps us alive, keeps us alive, keeps us alive.
You're grooving a little there to Lana Del Rey, Blitz. She took an optimistic turn on this album after songs like Born to Die.
Yeah.
What do you find uplifting?
Generally, wow, what do I find uplifting? I mean, I think it's a good time to be young and African, man. I think, you know, it's just, there's so much life that's, you know, beginning to shine. And I think for a long time, especially for African immigrants, it just wasn't space. So it's really uplifting to see young people start to claim culture, start to claim space, start to be heard again. And it's lovely. I mean, it's rarely said, but The Weeknd, I mean, he's Ethiopian background, you know? So it's like all these like 3rd generation, you know, Africans who have, you know, their parents migrated are becoming vocal. And I think that's lovely.
Coming up, making it, shining and being true to yourself.
That's it.
I love that. Well, next, Dizzy Rascal says he's carrying the positive vibes on through his 6th studio album, Rasket. While it may have come from a good place, it tackles the hardships facing London's underprivileged youth, touching on the anger, isolation and depression felt by the rapper growing up in a council estate in East London. Rasket may trigger some 90s nostalgia for Dizzy Rascal fans. The rapper's original grime game is back out in full force. It's a departure from the dance pop party tunes of 2013's The Fifth. Now, while reconnecting with his roots, Dizzy pondered what he'd do if his noughties fans outgrew him. Well, he says, what you gonna do? Check it out.
What you gonna do when your money ain't long? What you gonna do when your name ain't strong? What you gonna do when they won't play your records or you don't get booked cause your buzz is all gone? Sitting there trying to rap the same old song, trying to work out where it all went wrong. What you gonna do when your fans don't care cause they're all grown up and they all moved on? What you gonna do when it goes downhill? Calling up girls but they don't wanna chill. What you gonna do when you wanna roll out but they don't wanna know cause there ain't no thrill? If looks could kill, how will it feel? Ain't on the guest list, ain't on the bill. What you gonna do when you clock it was all your fault? You were too busy
That's Dizzy Rascal going back to where he was made, we could say, as a musician. Now, Blitz, you're a big fan of Dizzy Rascal, and actually he has something in common with you. You're both from Ghana.
Yes, originally Ghanaian roots. He's like, you know, his parents migrated. But it's amazing. I mean, his sound to me is one of those original grime, you know, when nobody cared, you know, was able to just muscle his way through. And it's glorious to see him come back and maintain that, you know, sense of self.
Why do you think we keep trying to fit back into the same cloth we were cut from? What keeps us going back to that original core?
I mean, you know, it's some of it is nostalgia, yes. You know, there's a part of you that's always remembering how good it was. But I think generally you also, when you expand so much, and your fans come from everywhere, and you know, you kind of start to lose what brought you in the first place. And I think that as artists, we're constantly trying to work our way back, whether it's back to identity, back to sound, back to visual motif, whatever inspired you first. I think one last thing that I think is also you don't have as much time anymore when you get bigger to experience anymore, you know? Like you have this whole window where you experience and you make work out of, then it becomes tours, it becomes press, it becomes things that no longer connect you. So artists often have to stop, go back to reconnect with that thing that birthed it.
Well, another artist paying tribute to her heritage is French singer and songwriter Jane. Her award-winning album Zanika means child in Malagasy. It's an homage to her mother, who is of Franco-Malagasy origin. We're going to leave you with her new clip off the album, Blitz. Thank you very much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure to be here.
Everyone, pop Diasporadical on your playlist. You can catch more Encore shows online and connect with us via social media. We'll leave you with Jane's Dynabeat.
You better